We are that strong, and we are fully in Kenya Kwanza coalition. We have signed a post-election agreement in broad daylight, where all the pages were signed, initialed, and I was present as a senior member of UDM. The one that we signed in KICC on 12th of March, we have not seen any of the copies, except the last page only had a signature. So whatever we signed is what now Honorable Junet has brought with some pages which are blank. That is hot air. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to confirm as the Deputy Party Leader of UDM that we are firmly in Kenya Kwanza coalition, and we are no longer, or we do not want any association with Azimio One Kenya Party. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Lekorere. Mheshimiwa, are you called Lekorere or Korere? Korere. You have the floor. Give the honorable member the mic.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, indeed, I want to confirm to this House that Jubilee is a member of the Kenya, No, please. Jubilee is a member of the Azimio.
All the honorable members.
Hold your horses, members. No. Honorable Speaker.
You will be heard in silence, honorable members.
Honorable Speaker, I want to ask my colleagues in Kenya Kwanza that a woman standing here is an independent woman. I didn't come to this parliament through some party waves. I created my own wave which brought me here. And I am in Jubilee, and I am in Azimio One Kenya Alliance. And I want to confirm this, Mr. Speaker. You know, a lot of people have talked about coercion and duress. And they left me wondering, what kind of cowards do you have in this house? I mean, full men, upstairs and downstairs, talking of coercion. I mean, Honorable Speaker, was it at gunpoint? Was it at knife point? Could they scream for help? What exactly was the problem? And Honorable Speaker, a lot of people have been talking and making reference to this constitution. The same constitution these members want to define. Because we have been read Article 108 and 107. As to who is the majority leader, it leaves no doubt. It is Azimio, honorable members, until such a time when you can walk out of this marriage. And Honorable Speaker, I want to say, because I come from a community where polygamy is accepted and it is actually celebrated. And Honorable Speaker, in this marriage, some of our members have chosen to flirt with the people they think have money. Wait until you know where that money is coming from. And I want to plead with the members of this House. You know, today we are enjoying democracy that a lot of Kenyans died for.
There's a point of order, Honorable Korere.
You know, Honorable Speaker, when you state something, Honorable Speaker, more so when you state something as the Honorable Sarah Korere is stating and waving a copy of the Constitution, and she quotes Article 107 and 108, and qualifies that by saying that if you read, then you will know Azimio is the majority party. I think Honorable Sarah Korere is completely out of order, because there is nothing in the Constitution, either in Article 107 or Article 108, that decrees that a party by name is a majority party. And I think, Honorable Speaker, it is important that she withdraws that statement, because You are talking about defilement of the Constitution. It is defilement of the Constitution to purport that the Constitution decrees that Azimio is a majority party. Article 108, Sarah Korere, maybe Honorable Speaker, if she has not had the benefit of reading Article 108, it is simply defining what the majority party is, who is the majority party, but not the certain political party, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Korere, endelea.
Honorable Speaker, I might not want to respond to Honorable Ichung'wah, but I also want to inform him that I'm properly schooled, I'm not semi-literate, I'm not illiterate. I can read this Constitution. All what I was making reference to is we cannot purport to defend the same Constitution which we again at the same time want to define. Honorable Speaker, as I wind up, I was saying, the democracy we are enjoying today, Kenyans fought for it, some died for it, and some members. You know, somebody spoke about slave trade. Indeed, there is slave trade in this country. That is why you are seeing our young people going to Saudi Arabia, being promised heaven on earth. The same way. Honorable. Some guys are crossing the floor now because they have been promised heaven.
The Honorable Member for Ganze. The Honorable Member for Ganze. If you speak in 3 minutes, I'll give the last chance to Honorable Atandi.
Okay, asante sana Bwana Speaker. Kwanza kwa sababu hii ni mara yangu ya kwanza.
It's your maiden speech?
Yes.
Okay, you will be heard in silence.
Okay, asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker. Kwanza nataka nichukue nafasi hii nishukuru watu wa Ganze kwa kuniamini na kunichagua kuwa mbunge wao katika hili bunge la 13. Mimi nimechaguliwa kwa chama cha PAA. Na kusema kweli Bwana Speaker, nikisimama hapa leo ninashangaa kusikia kuwa watu wa chama cha Azimio One Kenya Coalition wanasema kuwa chama cha PAA ni miongoni mwa vile vyama ambavyo viko katika muungano huo. Lakini mimi nataka kusema kuwa chama cha PAA kilitoka katika muungano wa Azimio tarehe 8 mwezi wa 5, miezi mitatu kabla ya uchaguzi. Na hii ilifanyika kwa sababu gani? Hii ndoa ya PAA na Azimio ilikuwa si ndoa iliyo sawa kwa sababu kulikuwa na mizozano mingi sana. Nakumbuka wakati wa kampeni chama cha Azimio kija kule mashinani kule Pwani kilikuwa hakiruhusu wanachama wa vyama vingine waweze kuungana katika ile mkutano yao. Walikuwa haruhusu hata campaign posters ziwe printed katika chama cha Azimio. Kwa hivyo tulipata shida sana wakati wa kampeni. Watu wa Azimio ama kupitia ODM walikuwa wamejaa kiburi, walikuwa wamejaa madharau, na walikuwa haruhusu mikutano yao watu wa vyama vingine waende pale. Kama walikuwa hawatutaki wakati huo, nashindwa kwa nini wanatutaka saa hizi. Mimi nikikaa hapa najiuliza tu, kwa mfano kama Azimio ingechukua serikali, wangekubali kweli kuwa hivi vyama vingine wawe karibu na wao? Sidhani kama ingekuwa hivyo. Kwa hivyo sisi tunashukuru muungano wa Kenya Kwanza ulitukaribisha, na kwa miezi mitatu kabla ya uchaguzi tulifanya kampeni tukiwa katika muungano wa Kenya Kwanza. Na hata saizi mimi ni kuomba tu kuwa wanachama wote wabunge watatu wa chama cha PAA walio ndani ya bunge hili, hao hawako ndani ya muungano wa Azimio, lakini wako katika muungano wa Kenya Kwanza, na hapo ndio tutabaki katika muda wa maisha wa bunge hili. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Honorable members, we still have actually 30 minutes. I want to ask the House if you concur. We have a reduction to 3 minutes so that we can have at least 10 members to speak to this. Atandi, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. And like all my colleagues have done, I want to congratulate you for being elected the Speaker of the 13th Parliament, and also to thank my voters, the great people of Alego Usonga, for electing me to this House. Honorable Speaker, since the introduction of multi-party democracy in Kenya 30 years ago, I am the first to be re-elected into Parliament, and so I want to thank my voters for that. Honorable Speaker, coming back to this matter, I can see that you are being persuaded to rule in favor of Kenya Kwanza in as far as the majority leadership of this House is concerned. But I want to urge you to confine yourself to the standing orders of this House, which says that the authority, standing order number 2B, the authority from where you are supposed to receive the guidelines on the majority leadership of members of this House is the registered political parties. I want to urge you to restrict yourself to that standing order when you sit back to make your decision on this matter, because we cannot purport to be guiding you on which side is majority when the law is very clear. The standing order is also very clear. Secondly, Honourable Speaker, I have seen that most members are complaining that they were coerced into joining Azimio la Umoja coalition. And I want to be specific to my brother, David Ochieng, who is here, who is my neighbor. Honorable Speaker, David Ochieng joined Azimio la Umoja coalition by force. Actually, we didn't even want him to join. He joined by force because he knew that without Azimio la Umoja, he will never be elected, he will never be here. He was using Baba's name. He was using Baba's name to be able to be elected, same as these UDM members. Honorable Speaker, if you rule in any other way, then, Honorable Speaker, you are helping in mutilating democracy.
I will give the floor to the Honorable Julius Meli. Julius Meli. 3 minutes. You will get time to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also rise
if
to...
you can compress your argument in 2 minutes, so much even the better.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Well guided. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the people of Tindred for giving me this chance to serve them for the third time in this National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, I also want to thank you most sincerely, especially for giving us this time to deliberate and to talk about the issues that are before us. But to make it very clear, Honorable Speaker, the Constitution is quite clear on which party forms the majority in this House. And it has been said very clearly by the honorable members, by the Constitution 108, Article 108, that the party with the majority, and it has been stated quite clearly by our majority leader designate, Honorable Ishungwa, that we have 179 membership in this House. Honorable Speaker, the standing orders put it very clear that the party with the largest number of members forms the majority party. That you've been magnanimous enough to allow us to actually ventilate here and to show the House and the country that Kenya Kwanza Alliance is actually the majority party. Azimio One Kenya Alliance, Honorable Speaker, has had its house built by force, by coercion, by actually blackmailing members. And I think there is a lot of testimony here from a number of members, from all parties, from ChapChap, from UDM, and from even PA, that they are actually not in that coalition. And the Honorable Speaker, you've known that even during the campaigns, ChapChap, PA, and all the other parties campaign with Kenya Kwanza. That they are actually being counted in Azimio is illegal and it is actually unconstitutional. Honorable Speaker, you realize that in Article 36 of the Constitution and 38, that there is freedom of expression, there is freedom of association. Therefore, by forcing these members to sit in Azimio One Kenya Alliance is actually unconstitutional, illegal, and should actually be voided. And therefore, you guide this House that One Kenya Alliance, Kenya Kwanza is actually the majority party in the House. Thank you.
Owen Bayer.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I also want to thank the people of Kilifi North for re-electing me. But I would like to say at the onset that before
we amended the law on political parties, there was sufficient law for Azimio to be a coalition. There was sufficient law. And they didn't need to change the constitution to form themselves into a political coalition political party. Now that the chicken have come to roost, they want to come back and say they are a coalition. Mr. Speaker, they are a coalition political party and they don't have membership here. And Mr. Speaker, rule that there is no Azimio coalition on the first. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, on Article 259 of the Constitution, there is the element of good governance. When you have a president who runs the executive, you have the party that is not in government running pick and pack. We have had the argument between Badi and Babu Owino about who will be the chair of pick and pack. In essence, preparing themselves to sit in the minority. Because it is the minority side that will check government. Now, Mr. Speaker, we cannot have the
Point
team
of
that
order
says...
From Honorable Badi.
Mr. Speaker, it's completely out of order to misrepresent facts, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of park and pick, we decided on our own to say that it will be chaired by a party or coalition of parties which is not forming the national government. There is no mention of majority or minority.
Now, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to get into an argument with the former. You know, that's why ODM removed him. But I also want to say that I don't want to listen to you now. Mr. Speaker,
Address
we
the
cannot
chair.
have the party that is purporting to be majority in parliament to actually sit in pick and pack at the same time. We can't do that, Mr. Speaker. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, fidelity to the Constitution. The article on political rights and the articles on freedom of association needs to guide you, Mr. Speaker, so that you can protect the fundamental rights of the members of the parties that I've said to be in Azimio. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kabondo Kaspul.
This one. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to speak. First and foremost, I want to thank my constituents in Kabondo Kasipul for electing me for the second time. And secondly, I want to congratulate you for being elected the Speaker of this House. Mr. Speaker, what we are talking about today is a matter of numbers to determine who is majority and who is the minority. Mr. Speaker, we have received communication from the office of the regulator. And the regulator has stated clearly that the majority, as we speak, is on the Azimio side as of the 7th of September. Mr. Speaker, we signed coalition agreement. And when you sign an agreement, you abide by those laws of that agreement. Mr. Speaker, I did not see anybody being pulled or being forced to sign those agreements. In any agreement, Mr. Speaker, or contract, there is an exit clause. And we have an exit clause within the coalition agreement of Azimio. The members who are not comfortable with Azimio after the marriage are free to move, but within certain rules and regulations of that contract. Mr. Speaker, we know that it ends on the 9th of November. Mr. Speaker, today, Azimio is the leader. But on the 9th, that might be a different question altogether. And this parliament is unique, Mr. Speaker. We have never had a parliament, apart from 2007, where the majority was not clearly defined by the numbers. And therefore, it will be your wisdom and the letter from the regulator that will determine what happens today. But after the 9th, I don't think you may have a problem if those people decide to stay with the Kwanza or with the Azimio. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask them to be
up.
patient and wait for the time to exit.
Member for Kangundo. Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and I'd like to congratulate you for coming as a speaker, and also, indeed, I thank people of Kangundo for electing me second time as a party leader of GDDP. Honorable Speaker, indeed, we as GDDP, we signed the coalition with Kenya Kwanza. And Mr. Speaker, as we try to go to make the determination, I want you to follow the following plea from we as Grand Dream Development Party. Article 48, sub-article 2, it gives us the definition of largest parties and the largest coalition in this house so that we can determine what is majority and minority. Mr. Speaker, this article, sub-article 2, we have talked about it very much. But I want, when we are coming with determination, to tell us how many coalitions went for election in 2022 in this 2022 election. One, I want to know whether Azimio Coalition Party was a coalition as well as Kenyans or was a party. Second, Honorable Speaker, I put a plea to you in Standing Order 20, sub-article 2, subsection 2. Subsection 2 gives us the majority party gives the minority leader, majority leader. The minority party with the number which produced this house gives the majority leader. So we want to understand if the majority party, which is not in coalition with another party, can give majority leader with a deputy leader from another party. This also is going to affect the people in the minority side. We want to know, through Standing Order 20, Section 2, that the party which forms the minority, if it's ODM, we want to know whether the deputy can come from Wiper. Again, Honorable Speaker, we want to understand the right of movement and association. Article 36, sub-article 2, give the right of association. But that right, does it go with value or leave the value where you are? So I want to migrate from this coalition or shifting my party. Do I shift with my voting rights or I leave my voting right where I signed an agreement before? I'm going also to Article 38. Article 38 gives the shifting of political parties. Today, as a party leader, my member can shift to another political party. Mr. Speaker, the noise cannot stop me pursuing my case. Honorable Speaker, if today a member moved from UDA party to ODM party, does he leave?
Your time is up. Member for Dagoretti South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And there are quite a number of issues that I wanted to raise on this matter. However, because I'll only have 3 minutes, I think it would be in order for me to just frame the issues for you as you retreat to determine this matter. Mr. Speaker, there'll be a number of issues that you shall be considering. And I think of important, firstly, you shall be considering the issue of the contracts that were entered into in the pre-election coalitions, and also the contracts that have been entered into in the post-election coalitions, Mr. Speaker. We have heard this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, that contracts were obtained under duress, Mr. Speaker. Contracts were obtained under coercion, Mr. Speaker. Contracts were obtained under intimidation, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that you shall want to preside over, to apply your mind on.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, with due respect, Mr. Speaker, issues of coercion and intimidation today were raised so much on this floor. But, Mr. Speaker, do you have any expertise to know whether there was coercion or whether there was intimidation? Do you have that knowledge, Mr. Speaker? Just like the way you dismiss my document, can you clear that matter now, Mr. Speaker? Whether you have the capacity to know there was coercion, there was intimidation, Mr. Duress, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
I can assure you, Honorable Junet, that in coming
Mr. Speaker, so that he doesn't eat into my...
I'll only consider material facts.
I'll ask the table to just to just reserve my time, Mr. Speaker. But the second issue I think that you should apply your mind on, Mr. Speaker, when you retreat, is this issue of freedom of association, Mr. Speaker. Is anyone bound to be in a place where they don't want to be, Mr. Speaker? And I shall not even exhaust more time on that. Mr. Speaker, the most important issue that I think you should consider is that this matter is of great public interest, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, how you determine this matter is going to determine whether this House shall apply itself to the constitutional mandate that it has been given by the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. Because as we speak now, this House has business to prosecute, Mr. Speaker. We might not even afford time to waste as we determine on such issues that are clear as day and night, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is important for us to remind ourselves that very fateful Sunday that we were called out of recess to come and prosecute this matter as the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. And Mr. Speaker, the honorable member who is talking about duress is the one who, if you go to our parliament broadcasting tapes, you will see the man who uprooted the speaker on that fateful night as I was trying to contribute to this matter, to try and warn the honorable member for Suna East that this is a law that shall come back to bite them from the behind, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I think it will be upon you, Mr. Speaker, to just retreat and determine these matters, and it shall come out, Mr. Speaker, clearly that there is a coalition party, there is a coalition of political parties, and there is a party. And when you consider all this, it shall be found that Kenya Kwanza is actually the majority. Mr. Speaker, to quote Honorable Junet,
the Honourable Member for Embakasi South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute. First, let me start off by thanking the people of Embakasi South for having seen it fit for me to serve them for the second term. Mr. Speaker, the law is very clear. The only person to determine which party or coalition a party belongs in is the registrar of political parties. The registrar of political party has expressed herself and indicated where these parties belong. She has also written and indicated that the earliest they can exit is on November 9th. So as we sit here today, they all belong in Azimio. Mr. Speaker, some of them went to court and they were advised that they must adhere to the regulations that they appended their pens on, and the earliest they can exit is on November 9th. So any ruling that's contrary to the advice of the only person that is allowed to register political parties and coalition, any ruling to that contrary would be unconstitutional by itself. Thank you.
The member for Kiminini.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, and congratulations for being elected Speaker and all members as well. I take this opportunity to thank the Almighty and the great people of Kiminini for getting me to this August House. Back to the debate. Mr. Speaker, sir, numbers do not lie. After the elections, Azimio had 173, Kenya Kwanza had 164, there was 12 independents, which brings us to 349. And after the announcement of the Kenya Kwanza leader, candidate to be the president, as they always say, success has got many mothers and fathers. There was a shift. But constitutionally, if you look at the Political Parties Act of 2011, a political party can only enter into a new coalition agreement after finally exiting an existing one. Now, what our brothers have done who moved to Kenya Kwanza, they just gave an intention. They've shown an intention to move. Because constitutionally, as much as we also really respect our Article 36, the right of association, but at the same time, that association should exist within the legalities. And what we know, an example, within that agreement, there were some parameters. We don't live in a legal vacuum. There were timelines. I noted this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, even a simple movement from that side of the aisle to this side, you have to walk out and bow before you cross. So I do not see why such a weighty matter could not be worked on within the legalities. So to me, my humble submission, Mr. Speaker, sir, the world is watching, Kenya is watching, your non-legal expertise and acumen is now under test. And your illustrious career in both houses, Senate and this Parliament, counts. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, with all due respect, our expectation is to see your brilliancy through a fair ruling. And asking myself a very simple question. When the books of history are being written, and we are talking about the ruling in the 13th Parliament by Speaker Moses Wetangula, which part of the ruling will you want to be, a progressive one or a retrogressive one? And finally, Mr. Speaker, allow me just to make a quote here from Shirin Ebadi, not John Badi. Shirin Ebadi is an Iranian woman. In 2003, was the first one to get a Nobel Peace Prize. And what she said, if you want to raise a crop for 1 year, plant corn. If you want to raise a crop for decades, plant trees. If you want to raise a crop for centuries, raise men. And if you want to plant a crop for eternities, raise democracies. Mr. Speaker, sir, we count on your experiences and all acumen. Thank you very much.
The member for Mhaya.
Very lucky. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this chance, and congratulations. Also thank the people for Mhaya for giving me a chance to represent them again in this second term. Honorable Speaker, when you retire to your table to make a decision, I think for me, what will really count will be Article 2 of the Constitution, Honorable Speaker, because this one pronounces itself on the superiority of the Constitution and really brings out the idea and fact that any other agreements made must be constitutional. So if there are any agreements that are lasting 2 months, they are lasting 1 month, and they are not constitutional, or they are really blocking the certain rights as stipulated in Articles 36 and 38, then those will be null and void. That one way, Honorable Speaker, will not have to avoid. Honorable Speaker, another thing, and I hear a few speakers almost threatening you about the history that you'll make. Don't be worried. It seems every speaker who comes here has to make some tough decision. Yours is this one, for me, that you really finally have to make a decision on whether these collisions that we are talking about are determined pre or post. And that is really the decision that will help us move forward into posterity. Because one speaker did allude on the American case and how the minorities, sometimes the government may not have the majority. But the best case study would be found in Europe, especially France and Germany, where collusions are the order of the day. And you will notice, Honorable Speaker, that most of those decisions are made after, post-election agreements are the ones that really make decisions in those two dominions or countries on which side holds government and holds the majority. So a better case study will be found in Europe and not even in America. Honorable Speaker, Article 36 is so serious, but it has been spoken on by many speakers, that the rights of the individual and the person, or even the party, is very important. So if we shall curtail the rights of people for several months because we signed some agreement or some document, honestly, we shall be just progressing slavery. Honorable Mbadi, I think you should surrender this matter once for all. And I want to remind you one thing as I conclude. One Honorable Bunyasi tried to assist you when we were making this law, but Junet almost beat that guy, and I went to protect him with my broken arm. Remember the Bunyasi Amendment. You are roasted. Thank you.
The Honorable Murugara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, because I have only 3 minutes, I'll congratulate you tomorrow and also thank my people of Tharaka tomorrow when I have 10 minutes. Mr. Speaker, sir, when you retire to make this decision, your wisdom is going to revolve around the following points. Number one, the Azimio agreement that we're talking about is a contract like any other. That contract or that agreement can be vitiated by the well-known principles of law, where all contracts are vitiated when they are either void ab initio or they are voidable. And for every intent, with the facts we are getting, this contract actually may be void, but most importantly, it is being voided by the parties that got into it. Number two, Mr. Speaker, sir, you will have to determine for us whether you can actually curtail the freedom of association as enunciated in Articles 36 and 38 of the Constitution. Are you able to tether these members to a coalition where they do not feel they actually fit? I do not think you can, but again here, you will have to extend your wisdom. Mr. Speaker, one of the speakers alluded to the fact that those who signed this agreement, including those who are now vitiating it, may have been ignorant. A contract is not law. Therefore, we cannot apply the maxim of ignorance of law. A contract is a matter of fact, in which case it doesn't matter whether you are ignorant or not, the fact remains, and what you're going to look at is whether the deed we are talking about is a deed by these parties. These parties are actually expressing the maxim that this is not their deed. It's in Latin known a factum plea, that this is not our deed, and therefore we only signed things that may have been fraudulent, that may have been coercive, which are now null and void. By doing so, it will come out clear that these parties are entitled to move, and by that movement, Kenya Kwanza coalition actually has a majority. So do find like that for us. Thank you.
Dagoretti South. Beatrice Elachi. North, sorry. Sorry, Honorable Elachi.
It's okay, Speaker.
Dagoretti North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first I want to thank the people of Dagoretti North and to congratulate you. And to say in 2 words, Mr. Speaker, that indeed if we knew who the majority was, today we would not be debating. And if indeed it was Kenya Kwanza, we would not be debating. But because we don't know, and they know very well they didn't have the numbers, we've come here now to ask for your wisdom in terms of how we move on in this House. But having said that, I think it was very clear after the elections, the Azimio One Kenya was the majority. The reasons why the Azimio remained as a coalition that is corporate was for purposes of knowing very well you were supposed to come in the House and indeed to form the committees and to form the majority of this House. The Constitution was also very, very clear that indeed you can have an executive and you can have an executive without having the legislative arm. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, 2 things that you'll be looking at. We have parties that have gone to court. Those parties are part again of those agreements. We must ask ourselves, indeed they never knew that this House will give them either the agreements they want, and that's why they went to court. And so we cannot come here again and await and give them the right in this House when they knew very well they wanted to go to court to have their rights there. So the second thing we have to ask ourselves also, as we move on, and they have a right to move, Mr. Speaker. They have a right to move to any coalition that they wish. But indeed it is important for posterity, for the 13th Parliament, that Kenyans know which side was at that time majority and minority, to ensure that in your ruling, we will respect the rule that you gave us, the act of political parties that you gave us. If indeed you knew it was a bad law, you would have rushed to court even before we went to election, the way we did in the 11th Parliament when you were pouring water on the security bill. So it's the same thing. So I would want to urge, can we move on fast and come in November and we discuss again this matter? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable members. Order. Honorable members, I want to sincerely thank you for the tremendous decorum and industry in prosecuting this matter before the House. No member has veered off the beaten track. You have all treated each other with absolute dignity, and going forward, this is how we should conduct ourselves, even in most animated situations. Respect for our standing orders is sacrosanct. I will consider the matters that you have prosecuted before the House, and I'll give you a reasoned ruling touching on the facts, the jurisprudence, the constitutionality of the issues, and any other matters that you conversed on Thursday, the 6th of October, 2022 at 2:30. Honorable members, it is now 7 p.m. and the House stands adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday, 5th October, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.